Now we are going to continue discuss transportation problems. In this part, we are going to discuss other methods to generate initial tableau for transportation problems. Here we first have an example that we have a toy company produced pandas in three cities: Detroit, Cleveland, Indianapolis, and they want to sell it to another three cities: New York, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. Here is the cost table, and we also have those that supply amount 250, 300, and 200 respectively to these three cities. And then we also have that demands from another three cities. So you just first check what if the demand meets the supply. So that the supply is 250, 300, and 200. You're adding them together, it gives you 350. That's the total supply. And the demand 190, 240, and 320. That adding together is also 750. So in this way, you may use the minimum cost method to build up initial tableau, and you may also use the one very naturally that you first choose the cheapest one, fill in it, and then search the next cheapest one, fill in it, right? You could do it that way. Actually, that method is called a mixed method, and you can use that method to build up initial tableau, but that's not what we want in this course. That we are going to I'm going to introduce you another two methods. The first one is called northwest corner. This method actually is the simplest method. What you do is you always start at the upper left corner of the tableau. That actually you can call it as northwest corner. And what do you do is you begin with the up left corner. That in this tableau you could see that is cell 11. And what you do is fill in possible amount into it, and then move to the one next to it. Move to the one next to it, that is cell 1, 2, in the same row, and then fill into it. If you have left, okay, amount left, you could go the next one in the same row and fill into it. Okay, just work on it in the same row. So that's always start in the up left corner of the tableau, and then move along the same row, fill in the amount, possible amount into amounts into it. Okay, so here, then when we finish the first row here, we simply moved down to the next row. We simply move down to the next row in the same column. Okay, the same column. See here, this example, we first fill in cell 1, 1, and then the rest we put into cell 1, 2. Then when we fill in the cell 1, 2, the first row is finished. Okay, and then you could see the market 2 only have 60. We need 240, and in this way we move down the next row, we get 180 from the source 2, and then the source 2 we have 300 units pandas. So in this way we just move to from cell 2 to cell 3, the same row, and then we fill in at 120 the rest. And once we finish this row, we move to the one next to it. That's the third row. The third row need 200 and the market 2 remain 200 to fill in, right? To be filled in. So in this way, we just simply fold it there. So this is the northwest corner one. You just remember always fill the amount from up left corner and then move along that row, fill in possible amount. Okay, so in this case, it's pretty simple. We only have this 3 by 3 tables here. If we have more there, we just follow it along the row. Just do it and then move down one row and then start to do it. Okay, so you can read the details about the method northwest corner, and it's very easy to understand it. Compare this example we filled in. And here you could look at the cost. When we built up initial tableau, we found you could see the total cost is 1,858, right? So this one probably quite expensive, okay? But sometimes it could be very cheap. It depends on the problem, okay? Now, the next method is called Vogel's method. Vogel's method is a little bit complicated. In this method, we are not going to just look at the price and put the amount directly. We first of all just go through that the difference between the cheapest prices. For example, you look at the left, you could see that the the way I put into the amount, you could recognize it, right? So you first ignore that right corners, what I wrote in the tableau. You just look at that one. What we do is, you could see here I have some, you could see that I have some 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 or things in there, right? What's that mean? That's actually when we start Vogel's method, we ignore that the demand and the supply. We just look at those cheapest cost. Okay, you could look at that on the in the first row we have 2.2, 2.1 are cheapest price. So we first calculate the difference between these two cheapest price, and that difference is 0.1. So we denote 0.1 on the right side in just in that row, right? Then we move to the next row. The next row cheapest one is 1.8 and the next one is 1.9. So we just find the difference between them is 0.1. Now move to the third row. That is cheapest one is 3, right? And the next one is 3.2. So the difference between them is 0.2. We make the record on it. And then we move to the column. Okay, so first column, the cheapest one is 1.8 and the next one is 2.2. So the difference between them is 0.4. We record it at the bottom of the column. And then the second column, the cheapest one is 1.9, next one is 2.10. So the difference is 0.2. And the third column, cheapest one is 2.10, and the next cheapest one is 2.4. The difference is 0.3. So here, for each row and each column, we have the difference between two chips price is, right? So what we do is we look at the largest one. The largest one is 0.4, right? The 0.4 is the first column. What we do is we put the possible amount into the cheapest one cell in this column. So that is 1.8. So we put this one, we can put the possible amount is 190, right? So once we fill in that, you could see the market one is done. So we just simply cross it. Okay, we cross it. So here, just use that. Okay, so we cross it. Okay, so this one is done. And we also find out when we fill in 190 that the source 2 has 100 110 remain. So we cross that 300 to write it down 110 here. Okay. And now what we do next is we recalculate the difference between chips price. Okay, so for the first row, you could look at it that we have only two left, right? So we just simply calculate the difference between them. So you could find out that the difference is 0.3. We just write it next to the 0.1. We write down 0.3 and 0.2 and 0.4. You see here we have 0.4, which is the largest difference. Okay, now we are going to work on that the third row. You could see here there's no changes. The difference between the chips, the one, right? The column 2 and the column 3, that the chips for column 2 is 190 and the next one is 2.1, so the difference still 0.2, and for the column 3 is still 0.3, so we keep them there. And now look at compare those. You could see 0.3, 0.2, 0.4, and 0.2, 0.3. So we are going to start the 0.4, that is row 3. So for row 3, we put as many as possible into the cheapest one. The cheapest one, 3.2, and we can mostly put 200 because we have only 200 in the row, the source 3, right? So in this way, we just put a 200 into that cell 3.2. And in this way, you could see the market 2 already have 200, right? So what we do is the third row is finished. The source 3 has only 200, so this row is finished. So we can cross it. We cross it. Okay. Now, when we cross this row, we need to recount the difference between the chips, the prices, and you could see that the row 1, the difference is still 0.3, and we just simply write down it and keep it. And row 2 has the difference 0.2. And now we look at the columns. The columns between that column 2 is 0.2, still 0.2, and the column 3 still 0.3, so we write them down. Now we have the difference between the cheapest price are 0.2 and 0.3. We have two 0.3 with as the largest amount. So you can choose any of them. So here, for example, we may choose that. For example, we can choose that the third column to work out. So one is 200, 2.10, okay, the price, and we have 110 left in the source 2, and here we need 300, 320. So we put that 110 here. We can put 110 here, and the remaining one is 210. Okay, and then the remain for the source 1 is 40, and that's the 40 we put into the cell 22. That's the one we put it in the cell 22. Now, once we done it in the table, we can work out the initial tableau. Just ignore those crossed because there is a mass there. So here we built up the initial tableau with that amount we fill in. So that x21 equals 190, x1240, x13 210, and x23 110, x32 equals 200. And here you look at the cost of this, the C equals, actually you work out at, you could see that the C equals 1,801. It is much cheaper than what we used Northwest method. But as I said, it depends on the problem. Sometimes it's easier to use Northwest method, right? Sometimes use the Vogels method, but normally Vogels method will probably give us the cheapest cost. Okay, so when we built up initial tableau, and we can use the way we work out it to find the optimal solutions, that we just work on the dual variables and then find the entering variable. Here, when we work out it, we get that x31 should be entering and x21 should depart. Okay, so once we work out this, we can get, okay, just remove it, and here we can just work out as the tableau 2. And when we work out the tableau 2, we can find the optimal solution that cost is actually, you can say 1763, and x12 equals 230, and x13 equals 20, and x23 equals 300, x31 equals 190, and x32 equals 10. So normally when you use Vogels method, that is a little bit of trouble to build up an initial tableau. But when you build up initial tableau, most of the time it's more close to the optimal solution, so you can save time to work on the tableaus to get the optimal solutions. So you may read the details about Vogels method, and here is the way how do we build up. In the later examples, I will use Vogels method again so you can understand it better. Okay, the next part we are going to work on is the extension. As at the beginning we said, we always assume when we solve the transportation problem, we always assume that the supply equals the demand, right? Demand. So here, what if we do not have them exactly the same? For, for example, here we have a transportation problem. You could see we have three sources and we have and two markets and how many the commodity do we have is source 1 220 tons and source 2 3 tons then 30 tons and source 3 40 tons, so totally we have the supply should be what 90 tons, right? And what do we need? Market 1 need 25 tons, market 2 need 50 tons, and in this way you could find out the demand only 75 tons. So we totally have 90 tons, and for the supply, and we what we need the demanding is 75. And how do we deal with it? And here we have it. What we do is create a dummy destination with a demand equal to the difference between the total supply and the total demand, and set the cost of the shipping to the destination for any sources is 0. So say we set up the dummy destination. Actually, if the demand is more than the supply, we can set up a dummy source, okay, original, and to work out it. In this example, because the total supply exceeds the total demand, so we set up the dummy destination, which need 15 tons, and then we put that the cost equals 0, so it doesn't matter what the basic variable is, and then multiply by 0 is 0, right? So here and we can work out this one. Now just for this example we can set up it. Now we can work out it by Vogel's method. In this way we just first work out the difference between those cheapest price in each row and each column. So in this way you could see first row that is cheapest one 0 and the other one is 1, so the difference is 1. And for second row difference is 2, and for third row difference is 4. And now if we check with the columns, you could see that the first column difference is 1 and the second column difference 2, and for the third column the difference is 0, right? So in this way we can build up it easily. So we use Vogel's method, that the most largest difference is what is the third row, right? The difference is 4. And now what we do is when we look at this, the 0 is the cheapest price, so we put most here, 15 here, and 15 is what we need, right? Here in the destination. And now what we do is we cross this column, and then in the source 3 we have 40 there, right? So we put 15 into the dummy destination, then we have 25 remained. And when we have 25 remained, so we just make the notes there in case we forgot, right? Now once we cross the third column, we recalculate the difference. Now you can see that the first row we have difference 2, the second row we have difference 4, and the third row we have difference 1. For the column 1, we have the same difference 1, we have column 2, and the difference is 2, right? Okay, now we start with the row 2. And we start on row 2, that the cheapest one as the 2, so we put what we can, that put the amount we can put into. So the market one need 25. We have 30 in the source 2. So in this way, we put 25 into it, and then we cross this column. We cross this column. So this column is done. Now we just fill all the rest into the second column. So that's 20 in the cell 1, 2, and 5 in the cell 2, 2, and 25 in the cell 3, 2. We finish it, right? So this, once we done this, we can build up an initial tableau. Okay, we can build up an initial tableau now. When we build up an initial tableau, when we finish the modules method, and then we put that we work out the dual variables, and then find the entering variable as 2x equal to 3 should be entering, and then with the loop we found x22 should departing. And when we have x22 departing, x23 entering, we find the value of it is -6 plus 0 and plus 5 minus 0. Here, this is the 6. That's 6. Okay. Now, we also find that the cost is 265, right? And now we go to, when we make up the loop, entering variable to x23, departing variable x22, and then we can move to the tableau 2. When we work out the tableau 2, and we could find out it's already reached optimal solution, that the cost equals 260 at x1 2 equals 20, x2 1 equals 25, x3 2 equals 30. You probably say, oh, that x23 and x33 are basic variables, but this is for the dummy destination, so we don't count on this one. We are working on that only for those real stuff, right? So we have 3 basic variables: x12 equals 20, x21 equals 25, x32 equals 30, and with the cost equals 260. For these basic variables, you 0 multiply 5, 0, 0 multiply 10, 0, right? So this one we can work out it whenever the supply does not meet the demand, and which one is not, just you set up the dummy for the one. So here you could see in this example that the total supply is 15 more than the total demand, so we set up a dummy destination. But if we have the total supply less than the total demand, then we produce a dummy source for with the value of the difference between the demand with the supply. And when we